The Galactic Council citadel did not welcome visitors. It endured them. Suspended in the violent glow of a neutron star, the structure stretched across space like a wound that refused to heal, layered in impossible geometry, its surfaces shifting with alien logic. Light bent unnaturally along its edges. Time itself seemed hesitant here. Ambassador Elias Varn stepped onto the central platform, flanked by silent guards whose forms defied symmetry. Their limbs bent too many ways, their armor grown rather than forged. He ignored them. He kept his posture straight. Eyes forward. Human. Above him, the council chamber opened into a vast amphitheater, tiers upon tiers of representatives from 100 civilizations. Some were vaporous shapes contained in energy fields. Others were massive, armored beings whose presence alone radiated dominance. A few resembled life as humans understood it, but only barely. And all of them were watching him. Not with curiosity. With judgment. A voice rippled through the chamber, layered and dissonant. Ambassador Elias Varn of Earth. You stand before the Council in violation of Galactic Accord 7 Delta. Charges: incitement of aggression, unlawful militarization, and destabilization of sovereign order. Varn did not look for the speaker. He already knew. At the highest tier, seated within a suspended lattice of pale light, was High Arbiter HFY. Ancient. Still. Waiting. Varn inclined his head slightly. I stand here because a human colony refused to be erased. A murmur moved through the chamber, some audible, others felt like pressure against the skin. HFY did not react. You stand here because your species does not understand restraint. A gesture, if it could be called that, emanated from the Arbiter. The space between them fractured into a projection. A star system appeared. Then the human colony, small, fragile, newly built. Ships in orbit. Civilian structures on the surface. Then more ships. Sleek. Angular. Armed. The Ketheri extraction fleet, HFY stated. Legally sanctioned. Operating within Council jurisdiction. The projection accelerated. Transmission logs played, distorted but clear enough. Vacate the system. Resource claim filed. Non-compliance will be met with force. Then the shift. Human vessels moved, not retreating, but aligning. Civilian ships repositioned into defensive formations. Surface installations activated hidden weapons. Signals flashed across the system in rapid coordination. The first shot came from the Ketheri. The last did not. The fleet burned. Silence followed. The projection vanished. HFY's voice returned, colder than before. You call this defense? Varn met the unseen gaze. It was survival. A different voice entered, sharp and sectal. The colony was instructed to withdraw. They refused. They were given no time, Varn replied. No negotiation. No acknowledgement of their presence as sentient claimants. Another voice, deeper, resonant like shifting stone. Irrelevant. The fleet possessed legal priority. Varn's jaw tightened, but his tone remained level. Legal priority does not grant the right to annihilate civilians. A pause. Not agreement. Calculation. HFY spoke again. Your argument is emotional. The Council operates on order. An order without justice is control, Varn said. That drew a reaction. Subtle, but real. Several delegates shifted. A ripple of low-frequency communication passed between them. Not approval, but attention. HFY leaned forward slightly within the lattice. Your species has been part of this council for 30 of your years. In that time, you have expanded beyond assigned sectors, developed unauthorized military capacity, and now, demonstrated willingness to engage superior forces. Superior? Varn echoed softly. They lost. The chamber tightened. Even the guards beside him adjusted. HFY did not raise his voice. He didn't need to. Unpredictability is not strength. It is a threat. Varn exhaled slowly. There it was. Not law. not evidence. Fear. You're not judging what we did, he said. You're judging what we might become. For the first time, the arbiter did not respond immediately. Instead, the chamber dimmed slightly. Signals flickered across multiple tiers. Private channels. Silent deliberation. Varn stood alone in the center of it, the weight of 100 civilizations pressing down on him. And in that silence, the truth settled. This was never about the colony. The decision had been made long before he arrived. When the lights returned to full intensity, HFY Rakal spoke with finality. The council will recess before delivering judgment. The guards moved. Ambassador, one said, not as a courtesy, but a directive. Varn allowed himself to be escorted. Not because he had to, but because it no longer mattered. The chamber they placed him in was small, sterile, and entirely without feature. No visible seams. No shadows. Just a single surface to sit on. He remained standing. Moments passed, or something like them. Time felt thinner here. Then the wall shifted. Not opened, shifted, as if reality adjusted to allow passage. HFY Rakal entered. Without guards. Without announcement. Up close, the arbiter was worse. Not monstrous. Not grotesque. Precise. Every movement deliberate. Every angle exact. A being shaped by control over millennia. You understand, HFY Rakal said, that this outcome was inevitable. Varn didn't pretend otherwise. You never intended to let us walk out of here equal. Equality is not granted, HFY Rakal replied. It is earned through predictability. Varn let out a quiet breath. You mean obedience. I mean stability. They stood in silence for a moment. Then the arbiter continued. Your species adapts too quickly. You do not conform. You escalate. Every model we construct fails to contain your responses. That's called thinking. That is called risk. Varn studied him. So this is preemptive. Yes. No hesitation. No shame. You execute one man, Varn said slowly. And you think that solves your problem? It sends a message. It sends the wrong one. For the first time, something shifted in HFY Rakal's posture. Not uncertainty, interest. You believe your species will respond irrationally. Varn almost smiled. No. I believe we'll respond exactly as we always have when pushed into a corner. And that is? Varn met him, unwavering. We stop backing up. Silence stretched between them. Then HFY Rakal spoke again, quieter now. There is still an alternative. Public concession. Acknowledgement of fault. Submission to council oversight. And Earth will be allowed to exist. Within limits. There it was. The offer. Not mercy. Control. Varn didn't take long. No. A single word. Final. HFY Rakal inclined his head slightly, as if confirming a calculation. Then your death will serve its purpose. Varn stepped closer, not aggressively, but deliberately. You think this ends with me, he said. I know it does not, HFY Rakal replied. But it begins here. Varn held his gaze. Then you should have chosen a different beginning. The wall shifted again. The arbiter left without another word. Varn remained where he was. Alone. For the first time since arriving, he allowed himself a moment, not of doubt, but clarity. He had not failed. He had simply run out of time. And somewhere, far beyond this place, Earth was still listening. That was enough. He straightened his posture. And waited for the verdict that would change everything. The chamber was louder this time. Not with voices, those remained measured, controlled, but with something beneath them. Unease. It moved across the tiers like a current, subtle yet undeniable. The sentence had not landed as cleanly as intended. Ambassador Elias Varn stood where he had before, though the space around him felt different now. Final. Fixed. High Arbiter HFY Rakal did not delay. The Council has reached its conclusion, he declared. Ambassador Elias Varn is found in violation of Galactic Accord. Sentence: termination by public execution. No embellishment. No hesitation. A flicker passed through the assembly. One of the smaller delegations emitted a sharp burst of sound, shock, perhaps, but it was quickly suppressed. Larger powers remained still, their silence heavier than protest. Varn inclined his head once. Understood. That was all. No argument. No appeal. The guards closed in again, guiding him away from the center. This time, no one watched with curiosity. They watched with something closer to calculation, as if measuring consequences that had yet to arrive. The holding chamber was different from before. Less sterile. More deliberate. A single console rested against the wall, its surface illuminated in soft pulses. Varn approached it slowly, already aware of its purpose. Final transmission, a disembodied voice stated. Restricted to one recording. Duration 5 minutes. He almost laughed. 5 minutes to summarize a species. He rested his hands on the console, staring at the blank field before him. For a moment, words didn't come. Not because he lacked them, but because too many demanded space. Then the recording began. Varn's image stabilized, framed in neutral light. His expression was calm, but not distant. If you're seeing this, he said, then the council made its decision. He paused briefly, choosing clarity over emotion. They're not wrong about everything. We are unpredictable. We adapt fast. We don't always follow the rules. A faint breath. But they've misunderstood why. His gaze held steady, as if he could see beyond the chamber, beyond the citadel. We learned the hard way. Every mistake, every war, we paid for it. That's how we changed. Not by staying safe. By surviving what should have ended us. His tone didn't rise. It deepened. They think this execution will stabilize things. That removing one voice will quiet the rest. A slight shake of his head. They don't know us. A beat. We don't fracture when we're pushed. We align. The light flickered once across the console. I'm not asking for revenge, he continued. That's easy. I'm asking for resolve. Know what this is. Understand it clearly. And then decide who we're going to be when it matters most. His expression softened, not weakness, but something more personal. We tried to stand among them. That wasn't a mistake. But we won't kneel to stay there. The recording neared its limit. Whatever happens next, Barnes said quietly, make sure it's something we can live with. The feed cut. No dramatic ending. No farewell. Just truth. They moved him quickly after that. Efficiency had replaced ceremony. Even the guards seemed more rigid, as if aware they were part of something larger than protocol. The execution platform extended outward from the citadel's outer ring, exposed to the distorted light of the neutron star. Space beyond it twisted faintly, gravity bending the stars into arcs that felt wrong to look at. Delegates gathered again, though fewer this time. Some chose not to witness it. Others remained drawn by duty or curiosity. The structure itself was simple. A vertical frame. A suspended line. Primitive. Intentional. Varn stepped forward without prompting. The restraints were unnecessary. He offered no resistance. His gaze swept the assembly once, not searching for allies, only acknowledging presence. HFY call observed from above, unchanged. Final statement permitted, the arbiter said. Varn exhaled slowly, the cold edge of space brushing against him. You built this system to last, he began. Order, structure, control. It's impressive. A faint shift among the delegates. But you made one assumption, he continued. That everything worth existing can be predicted. His eyes lifted toward the higher tiers. Humanity doesn't fit into that. We never have. The silence deepened. You see risk. Instability. A variable you can't solve. A slight pause. You're right. A murmur, quiet, uncertain. What you don't see is what happens when that variable is pushed too far. His voice remained even, but something beneath it sharpened. You think this ends something. It doesn't. It defines it. The guards adjusted the mechanism behind him. The movement was subtle, but the intent was clear. Varn didn't look back. We didn't come here to conquer, he said. We came to belong. A brief stillness. But we won't trade who we are to earn that place. His gaze returned to HFY Arkal. You wanted a message. A breath. You're about to get one. The signal was given. There was no countdown. No spectacle beyond the act itself. The mechanism engaged. And then, stillness. Complete. The platform remained silent. No reaction, no announcement. The act was finished as efficiently as it had begun. For a moment, nothing moved. Then the transmission ended. Earth received it in fragments. Signal delays stretched across light years, but the impact arrived all at once. Screens lit up across cities, stations, ships in orbit. The recording replayed automatically, translated into every human language, unfiltered and unedited. Crowds gathered without being told. In control rooms, operators stopped speaking mid-sentence. In homes, conversations died into silence. On distant colonies, workers abandoned tasks, drawn to the same image. A man standing alone. Speaking calmly. Then gone. The delay between his final words and the execution felt longer than it was. Long enough for hope to exist, and then vanish. No one spoke at first. Not because they didn't know what to say. Because they understood exactly what it meant. The emergency session convened within the hour. No delays. No procedural debate. Every representative was present. The chamber on Earth was nothing like the Citadel. No impossible architecture. No alien geometry. Just a circular room, built for voices to carry. This time, they didn't need to. They executed him, one delegate said flatly. Publicly, another added. Broadcast across council space. A pause. They called it justice. That broke something. Not loudly. Not visibly. But completely. The Secretary General stood at the center, hands resting against the table. No notes. No prepared statement. We sent him there to speak, she said. They answered with a message. Her gaze moved across the room. So we respond. No one interrupted. No one disagreed. This is not a dispute, she continued. It's not a misunderstanding. It's a decision. Her voice sharpened, not with anger, but certainty. They've decided what we are. A breath. Now we decide what we become. The room remained silent. Not uncertain. Unified. She straightened. Effective immediately, all diplomatic channels with the Council are suspended. Defensive protocols escalate to full activation. A beat. Then, clearly. We are at war. The words settled without resistance. Not dramatic. Not shouted. Accepted. Around the world, systems shifted. Fleets powered from standby. Commands transmitted across secure networks long prepared for a moment like this. Humanity did not erupt. It aligned. In orbit above Earth, the first fleet detached from its dock. Massive carriers moved with deliberate precision, escorted by smaller vessels that formed tight, adaptive formations. No wasted motion. No hesitation. Orders flowed continuously, refined in real time. Targets were already marked. Routes already calculated. Not rushed. Ready. On the command deck of the lead ship, a single line appeared across every display. Confirmation, message received. No further explanation was needed. Engines ignited. And for the first time since joining the galaxy, humanity moved not to be accepted, but to be answered. The first strike did not begin with a declaration. It began with absence. Across 3 council-controlled systems, relay stations stopped transmitting within the same second. No distress signal. No warning. Entire communication grids went silent, leaving only empty channels where constant data streams had once flowed. At first, it was dismissed as failure. Then navigation arrays followed. Trade routes fractured as guidance beacons blinked out one by one. Ships emerging from jump corridors found themselves blind, their maps reduced to outdated fragments. Confusion spread faster than any weapon. By the time the Council recognized the pattern, it was too late. Human fleets were already inside their territory. Admiral Rin Ishida stood at the center of the command deck, hands clasped behind her back. The viewport before her displayed a fractured starfield, distorted by the interference field they had deployed minutes earlier. "Status," she said. "Relay cluster neutralized," a technician replied. "No outgoing signals. Navigation disruption holding across the sector," another added. "Council traffic is rerouting, but they're guessing." Ishida nodded once. "Good. Keep them guessing." She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Every order carried weight because it had been anticipated long before it was spoken. The fleet around her moved like a single organism, carriers maintaining distance while smaller strike vessels darted ahead, adjusting formation constantly. No fixed patterns. No predictable vectors. They didn't fight the way the Council expected. They didn't fight the way anyone expected. "Contact in outer range," the sensor officer said. "Ketheri Defense Group. 6 vessels. Forming interception line." Ishida tilted her head slightly. "They're early. Looks like they scrambled whatever was nearby." "Good." She stepped closer to the display. "Then they're unprepared." The enemy formation appeared, clean, symmetrical, textbook precision. Their ships aligned in a perfect arc, weapons charging in unison. Predictable. "Break formation," Ishida ordered. Around her, human vessels scattered, not in retreat, but in controlled divergence. Lines dissolved into fragments, each ship adjusting independently, shifting angles and speed. The Ketheri responded instantly, recalibrating targeting solutions. Too slowly. "Phase 2, Ishida said. The first human strike didn't come from the front. It came from behind. 3 stealth craft dropped out of mass jump positions, emerging inside the Ketheri formation. Their weapons fired before the sensors could adjust, short, concentrated bursts aimed not at hulls, but at propulsion cores. 2 enemy ships lost thrust immediately, drifting out of alignment. The arc collapsed. "No," Ishida said. The scattered fleet converged, not into a line, but into intersecting attack paths. Crossfire from multiple angles, constantly shifting, forcing the Ketheri to split their defenses. They tried to reform. They couldn't. Within minutes, the engagement was over. Not clean. Not even. But decisive. "Remaining contacts disabled," the sensor officer reported. "No survivors detected." Ishida watched the fading debris for a moment. "Log it," she said quietly. "And move." No celebration. No pause. The fleet turned as one, accelerating toward its next target. In the Council Citadel, confusion had turned into something sharper. Reports flooded in from every direction, inconsistent and incomplete. Systems failing. Fleets disappearing. Entire sectors going dark without explanation. "They're not following engagement protocols," one delegate insisted. "This is irregular warfare." "They are targeting infrastructure," another said. "Not territory." "Why?" No one answered. At the highest tier, HFY remained still, absorbing the data without visible reaction. Streams of information passed through the lattice around him, calculations unfolding faster than most species could perceive. "Pattern analysis," he commanded. "Nonlinear," an attendant responded. "No consistent vector. No central formation. Intent?" A pause. "Disruption," the attendant said. "System-wide?" HFY considered that. "Not conquest. Not defense. Something else." "They are dismantling cohesion," he said at last. The realization spread unevenly across the chamber. "They're isolating systems," another voice added. forcing us to respond without coordination. A third voice, quieter, edged with something unfamiliar, uncertainty. This was planned? Yes. It had been. HFY Call's gaze shifted slightly, focusing on a new data stream. Human fleet movements layered over disrupted council networks. No wasted motion. No hesitation. They anticipated our response models, he said. They adapted, the attendant corrected. The distinction lingered. Far from the Citadel, in a system previously considered insignificant, a smaller council species watched the war unfold from the margins. Their observation station hovered at the edge of a dim star, sensors tuned to distant signals. They had no fleets to send. No influence to exert. Only perspective. They've halted trade across 5 sectors, one observer noted, and disabled navigation in 3 more. A third adjusted the display, bringing up a replay of a recent engagement. Human ships moved unpredictably, shifting positions faster than conventional doctrine allowed. They don't hold ground, the observer said. They break it. Silence settled over the station. They were invited here, another voice added. Given a place, and then shown the limits of it. The first observer watched the replay again, slower this time. They're not trying to fit anymore. No one disagreed. The next battle came harder. A fortified council stronghold, heavily defended, layered with overlapping shields and automated weapon platforms, stood directly in the path of the advancing human fleet. This time, the council was ready. Admiral Ishida studied the defensive grid projected before her. They've learned, she said. Adjusted firing patterns, her tactical officer confirmed. Wider coverage. Fewer blind spots. Good. Ishida's expression didn't change. Then we adjust faster. The first wave took heavy fire. 2 human ships broke apart under concentrated energy bursts, their fragments scattering across the void. No retreat followed. The remaining vessels shifted instantly, altering approach vectors, feeding new data into the network. Shield frequency rotating, the technician called out. They're cycling faster. Then don't chase it, Ishida replied. Overload it. The second wave didn't target the shield. It targeted everything feeding it. Strike craft dove through the defensive perimeter, taking hits as they went, locking onto power relays, control nodes, anything sustaining the structure. Explosions rippled across the surface. The shield flickered. For a fraction of a second. Enough. Main battery fire. The carrier's primary weapon discharged, a focus beam cutting through the weakened barrier and into the heart of the stronghold. The structure held for a moment. Then it didn't. The blast expanded outward, tearing through the remaining defenses in a cascade of failures. Silence followed. Not total, systems still burned, debris still drifted, but decisive. Target neutralized, the sensor officer said. Ishida closed her eyes briefly. Not in relief. In acknowledgement. Loss report. 4 ships confirmed destroyed. 7 damaged. She nodded. Mark them. No speeches. No hesitation. Set course, she said. The fleet moved again. Back in the Citadel, the fractures had begun. Delegations spoke over one another now, restraints slipping as reports continued to worsen. Systems isolated. Fleets outmaneuvered. Supply lines collapsing under coordinated disruption. They cannot sustain this, one voice argued. Their losses are irrelevant if ours continue, another cut in. They're forcing prolonged engagement, a third said. We're reacting, not directing. HFY listened. Not to the noise. To the pattern beneath it. For the first time, something close to miscalculation surfaced in his analysis. Not because humanity was stronger, but because it was different. Uncontained. He spoke, and the chamber fell silent. They are not seeking victory as we define it, he said. Every gaze turned toward him. They are redefining the conflict. The words settled heavily. And what does that mean? A delegate asked. HFY Oracle paused. Then, quietly, "It means this does not end quickly." Across the galaxy, systems dimmed. Trade halted. Communication fractured. Alliances strained under pressure they were never designed to endure. And through it all, human fleets continued to move. Not as scattered forces. As a single, evolving intent. They did not ask for position. They did not wait for approval. They did not stop. Because somewhere, in the memory of every command issued, every maneuver executed, a single moment remained. A man standing alone. A line spoken without hesitation. Not a threat. A truth. Humanity had been given its place. And it had refused. Now, the galaxy would learn what that meant. Because when pushed far enough, humanity does not kneel.